All right, we're ready to start breaking apart our wireframe. Now, you might be asking yourself, why do we have to break apart this wireframe layout that we created over inside Illustrator? Well, let me explain something here to you. To really help this make sense, we need our Layers panel. So go ahead and head up to your Window menu and then look for Layers, or you can hit F7 on your keyboard. That'll bring your Layers panel to life as well. Or you might even find them kicking around over on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, what we see inside the Layers panel is actually kind of boring. It just says Layer 1. That's it. So in other words, everything that we have here inside our layout, and maybe what I'll do is I'll zoom in just a little bit on my layout so we can have a closer look at this. Everything that we've created here inside Illustrator resides on just one single layer here inside Photoshop. And this is really the big difference between Illustrator and Photoshop. There's lots of discussion, lots of debate in the design community. Where should I be creating my layouts? Should I create them inside Illustrator or should I create them inside Photoshop? Well, I always say go with the tool that you're most comfortable with. So oftentimes I use Illustrator for things like wireframes or quick mock-ups because I'm very, very comfortable inside Illustrator. I can work quickly inside Illustrator. And the other thing about Illustrator, too, that we've come to know very well is that it is an object-based application. In other words, everything resides on one layer inside Illustrator, and I can grab those objects and I can drag them around, move them around, and so on, reposition them. Here inside Photoshop, Photoshop is a layers-based graphics application, meaning that if I want to manipulate my slideshow or my news feed down towards the bottom and so on, that information, that content really should reside on its own layer, okay? So this is why we have to run through this process of breaking apart the wireframe, because we want to have all of the main components sitting on their own layers inside the Layers panel rather than having them all compressed down onto just one layer, okay? Now, thankfully, it's very easy. It's very straightforward. I'm going to start off with the main header. Okay, so give me a moment. I'm just going to shove my Layers panel out of the way for a second, and maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit more on my layout, perhaps something like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool out of the toolbox there on the right-hand side. Grab this fella, and then from the options bar at the top, we have a style drop-down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this out to fixed size, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the width and height. Notice these width and height fields that appear here on the options bar. I'm going to set the width and height to the same dimensions as the header that you and I had created back inside Illustrator, which, if you recall, was 960 pixels for the width and the height was 130. Okay, so I'm going to lock that in. So now when I go and create a rectangular selection, a rectangular marquee, it's going to be locked to that size that you and I had specified. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor up towards the sort of the top left area here, and I'm going to click with my mouse. I'm not going to let go with my mouse though, because I can drag it around until I have it locked in. And what I want to do is I want to lock it in right to the extreme top left corner, just like that. And then I'll let go with my mouse. And if I zoom out just a little bit, notice that my entire header area is now selected right across the entire layout. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. With the header area now selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the Layer menu up at the top. I'm going to head down to New, and then I'm going to head down to Layer via Cut. In other words, what I want to do is I want to take this selection that we've created and I want to cut it off of the layer inside the Layers panel and create a new layer out of that cut content, if you will. So New and then Layer via Cut. And there we go. We now have Layer 2 inside the Layers panel. If I disable the visibility of that layer, we can see exactly where that is inside our layout. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, I also have gotten into the habit of naming my layers as I go. So I'm just going to double click where it reads Layer 2, and I'm going to type in header, just like that. Perfect. There we go. So that's the first component. Now we just have a few more components that we need to break out across separate layers, and then we can start applying our design.